Bengals 26, Raiders 19. Doing a quick recap for the Talking Football page. Bobby Skinner, Justin Penik. And a game where it felt like the Bengals were in control this whole game, and the Raiders come and fight back, and felt like they're going to do this damn thing. Those last two drives, getting down, kick the field goal, and then have that, first and goal at the 9. And I guess we can start there, Justin. And I was just frustrated by that last 4th and 9 play call. And, it's one play, and they probably don't convert it regardless. But it was just a weird play call where you have 4th and 9, like you have to get 9 yards, and you run 4 men. You keep, the running back in, and they run a curl flat, which the curl doesn't even get into the end zone because it's bracketed like crazy, because there's only 2 routes that they're covering the goal line, and there's only 2 routes they have to cover. So they bracket it. The running back or the linebacker Jermaine Pratt's able to play under because he's got nobody to cover because the running back stays in and the tight ends are in the flats. Just kind of like a weird play call to end that game.
Yeah, Bobby Skinner, we root for a football team, as everybody could probably say that we're Giants fans, but we root for a football team that is not very good in the red zone. And 2 things that you really need to execute well in the red zone is solid play calling, good play calling, creative play calling that can get guys separation in space. And also you need really, really good quarterback play with accuracy. And that's what you saw on that Joe Burrow touchdown pass, is you saw that there were 3 guys that were around that one specific target that was in the first half, and Joe Burrow was able to put an impeccable ball on. And I felt like that was really the main difference in this game. If you want to just talk about, red zone execution, or if you want to pinpoint kind of one thing, is in the areas in which Cincinnati needed to execute and the plays that they needed to execute, they 100% did. And the Raiders just kind of looked flat. They came out from the start, looked flat from false starts, right from that first drive. They had a bunch of false starts, dropped passes that were early in the game to the first quarter that hurt them. Derek Carr was holding onto the ball and wasn't manipulating the pocket like I think he could at his best. Just a flat game from the Raiders, and the Bengals did enough.
Bengals' first playoff win in 31 years.
Yes, if you didn't know from watching the broadcast.
I have a lot of Raiders friends as they're friends, but they're like family. So in my mind, I'm thinking about the Raiders playoff drought and not like, oh, the Bengals actually probably have like the only one that's worse than the Raiders at this point.
Yeah, some bad losses too. And I can imagine you're sitting there as a Cincinnati Bengal fan, whether you're at home or whether you're in the stands, and you're thinking to yourself, not again. Not again. Because every single game that, I feel like they've had a lead. And I think the last playoff loss that they had, and that was at home, they had a lead and they just found ways to lose games. But good for them, especially with Joe Burrow as your quarterback and Ja'Marr Chase having the season that he's had. And then he had the game that he had where they gave him a Debo Samuel comparison, which I'm like, you know what? I haven't watched a ton of Bengals games this year. I've watched more 49ers games. That's kind of accurate with how they were using Ja'Marr Chase. So fun, exciting. I'm happy for the Bengals. I would have loved the Raiders to win because that's a cool story. John Madden, different head coach and whatnot, but happy for the Bengals as well.
Yeah, and the Bengals, I think this is why they can be exciting going into the next round, is because I want to talk about the Raiders, and specifically on third down, is in the playoffs, defenses are just so much more keyed in on what you're doing and your tendencies, and third down is the money down. The Bengals won doing what they do. They won it by they didn't really run the ball, try and get the run game going at all because, they couldn't. And, credit to the Raiders defense, who their run defense has turned around since halfway in the season. But by spreading it out, going 5 wide empty sets, getting those Ja'Marr Chase one-on-ones on the outside, and then get, that CJ Uzomah, connection between him and Burrow. Like CJ I think is one of the more underrated tight ends. Like I've done some Bengals breakdowns, and it's like CJ just always knows where to do. Like he's not going to burn. He's got decent speed, but he's not going to burn you anything. He knows where to do. It's showed on that touchdown at the beginning of the game. Like that was just that was another that was a do or die 3rd and goal at the 7, and they bracketed it like that. And Uzomah just finds that hole. He presses it enough to keep those safeties on top. Sits on it, doesn't float back into it, and Burrow, Burrow being Burrow, hitting them just on the right time, and then they've got a touchdown on their first drive of the game.
Yeah, they came out really hitting. Uzomah is one of those guys. He took over a primetime game earlier this year too, and it was fun to see. So that was really, really fun to see. Burrow's got confidence in these cats, and really, if you look at the relationship that Burrow has with a guy like Chase, and T. Higgins was quiet throughout the game too. Tyler Boyd had some moments here and there, but it kind of was just the Chase and Burrow show throughout the whole thing. And that's what you can look at this game and be like, well, if a team can stop that kind of back shoulder Burrow Chase connection, then maybe they have a chance in the game. But then also you can look around and be like, well, the rest of these guys weren't even that involved. Joe Mixon really included in that. So that's what makes this Bengals team so dangerous. And I do think if there is a team that you do want to face as like the top heavy teams of the AFC, I kind of feel like it is the Titans. So I do feel like they have a really good shot at beating the Titans next week and moving on to the AFC Championship game.
There's not a guarantee they play. If the Patriots win, they'll play the.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
They'll play. Well, I guess we're all booking on a Kansas City victory at this point. But yeah, and it's they've won what they've done all year, and it's Burrow trusting his guys. Like even CJ Uzomah on that third down, where he runs that seam versus Divine Diablo, who we talked about him in the draft. He's like a 6'4" safety. They put him at that linebacker spot and have that Tampa. He runs with them perfectly, but his Burrow is like, hey, I trust my tight end versus this linebacker safety hybrid. I'm going to put it right past his ear, and I'm going to trust my guy to get it. And then you mentioned with Ja'Marr Chase, they were playing off Chase, but when those empty sets, you play off them. You can't double. It's like, okay, if you're going to play off of him, you're not going to allow him to stack you and beat you deep. Well, we're just going to hit you on back shoulder after back shoulder. And those are like the biggest plays of the game.
Yeah, outside numbers.
What do you have? Nine catches for 116 yards. Added another 23 rushing too.
Yeah,
and that's a rookie. That's a rookie doing that. Like we're used to Chase being good because he had 1,400 yards as a rookie, but that's a rookie doing that in his first playoff game. Burrow doing that in his first playoff game, and it was just like. That's what you should be excited about, the Bengals fans, not just that you won a playoff game, but you won a playoff game playing the way that you've played all year.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Raiders got in trouble, especially in the first half.
Yeah. And you mentioned the empty sets by Zach Taylor. I think two of the things that Zach Taylor does best, and this is when you compare the Bengals and the coaching staff and the schematics to the rest of the NFL, is utilizing those empty sets and really keying in on certain areas on a defense or keying in on what the strengths of your offense are. So utilizing those empty sets, it puts defense at a disadvantage. And then also just route concepts that work off of each other, which that's something that's difficult for some of the bad teams in the NFL to do. They don't have route concepts that work well off each other. Well, I think that's exactly what Zach Taylor's offense is it just these route concepts work off of each other and Joe Burrow's able to find these guys. So cool, fun.
Do we talk about the refs sucking before I want to talk about Carr on third down?
Yeah, because I think if you're a Raider fan, that's partially the thing that you're most upset about is a touchdown. They lost by 10 points, right? Seven touch. There you go. Those 7 points were the reason why, that was the difference in the game.
Field goal and talk. But here's the thing. If you're a Raiders fan, yeah, you're mad. You should be mad. But if you're a fan of any other of the 31 teams, you shouldn't be mad because they totally the more egregious call was, Joe Burrow wasn't even close to out of bounds, not even close. That's the more egregious call. And I freeze framed it when the whistle just starts to blow. So it's not like the whistle just starts to blow and everyone just stops. Like it's a game of Madden, there's human reaction. The ball is 6-7 feet away from the receiver.
Yeah.
The DBs had given up at that point. It was a touchdown. It would have been a much more of a disgrace to me if they did call it as like an egregious whistle and replayed the down. That would be way more of an egregious call to me than that. And I understand the letter of the law. But as a football fan, the right outcome happened. And I'm never going to complain about the right outcome happening, even though the refs totally screwed it up. But at the same time, it's they screwed it up. I would say even more so on the, saying Burrow stepped out of bounds when he wasn't even close to out of bounds.
Yeah. If I'm a Raider fan, I'm looking at the false starts. I'm looking at the sloppy play. I'm looking at not getting plays in time. So you're constantly rushing the snap. I'm looking at drop passes by Deshaun Jackson. Derek Carr had some misreads where he's looking at Darren Waller one way. Deshaun Jackson's running a crossing route over the middle of the field that's open. Those are the things that I look at in this game rather than the one play where it was a touchdown. They messed up a bunch
of calls. The refs definitely suck.
Yeah, they did.
In here saying they're horrible. So if you're a Raiders fan, be frustrated. But 31 other teams, I don't want to hear about that. You were betting on the Raiders and you want to call it by the letter of the law. The right outcome happened on that play.
Hey, minus 10.5 or plus 10.5. Yeah, they covered. So I mean, hey, if you were betting on the Raiders, you still got what you wanted. So
plus 10.5. I thought it was like 6.
It was some, I think one of my buddies just bet plus 10.5 and he got it. So
I don't
good
know
for
if
him.
that's right. But who cares? We don't bet anyways. No
No, we
DraftKings
don't.
ads on this.
Talk of
podcast.
Football is not sponsored by DraftKings yet.
And here's where I was talking about like the Bengals won doing their way. Now the Raiders did a decent job adjusting to this, like right before the end of the first half. But the Raiders, like Hunter Renfrow's been their guy, and especially on third down. And he made some third down catches in this game, don't get me wrong. But like he's been that guy where the Raiders will have that first read, and if that first read is not there, well, you still got time. You go to Renfrow. He's such an amazing route runner out of the slot, and when you use him in motion, he's gonna be there on those whip routes. So, and whatever type of routes he was doing. But what the Bengals did a good job of doing was like, okay, one, we're gonna get your first read where it's murky, and Carr would go back to Renfrow, and they would be bracketing Renfrow, and then Carr hitch, and then the two big plays in this game on third down was the fumble. He had Deshaun Jackson crossing wide open on that play.
Yep.
That ends up being a sack, and you shouldn't have Fabian Moreau blocking. Was it Sam Hubbard or Hendrickson?
It was Hubbard.
Hendrickson. Regardless, you shouldn't. I think it was Trey Hendrickson, but you don't want Fabian Moreau blocking him. But that's a difference of 3 points. The Bengals kick 3. They got 3 points right there, and then the goal line sack. It was a different play, but it was the same thing where it was like that 1-2 hitch. You take a sack down at the 1 yard line. Now you got to do a quick punt. You end up getting a 44-yard net punt, and the Bengals are able to go and get 3 points off of that too. Like that's the difference of the game too. That's 6 points right there left off of that because of like not being ready for them being ready for like what you do every week, and that's why. The playoffs are such a different game because defenses are just so much more keyed in on what you're doing and not just doing what they do every week.
Yeah. I feel like Zay Jones was the main beneficiary of bracketing Hunter Renfrow. And then boom, there's another guy that's open. I think you saw it the first play of the game. There was another play in the fourth quarter where it was clear, like boom, they're going after Hunter Renfrow. They're giving him attention. Somebody else is getting open. And that just didn't happen enough. The funny thing about this game, and what was really fun about it heading into it, was Las Vegas and Cincinnati, respectively, were the second and third ranked teams in the National Football League in explosive pass play rate. The Raiders' defense was the defense that was better at stopping the explosive pass play compared to the Bengals. And actually, it was the total complete opposite from this game, which that lets you know how unpredictable the playoffs can be. But these were two passing offenses that were really, they weren't solely relying on the big explosive play, but they're high pass rate offenses, and they like to produce those big plays. So it was going to be, really most games in the NFL, if you can produce the big explosive plays and if you could stop them, odds are you're going to win. And the Bengals were the team that did that today.
And the Raiders did good, like adjusting after that. That touchdown drive before the half they had. There was a third down right around midfield where they put Renfrow on a seam. He's double covered, and it was either Edwards or Zay Jones who had a crosser wide open for 19 yards. And then on that same drive, they ran a Mills concept, which is, two wide receivers on the same side, and one runs a deep end, one runs a deep post. And Carr just kept his eyes on that safety. Renfrow was running that deep end, just kept that eyes on the safety. And as soon as that safety showed, just fired it into Zay Jones on that post versus Eli Apple and put him on the board. So it just stinks if you're a Raiders fan. It's like, man, those 2 third downs early in the game, again, that could be the difference between 6 points, 3 points.
Yeah.
But they did adjust it. It was funny to see a little NFL draft talk. Eli Apple and Vernon Hargreaves, like just a really weird bus chemistry on the Bengals secondary, pick 10th and 11th.
And speaking of, I hope for Raiders fans that he's not a bust, but man, Alex Leatherwood is so bad. Just costed them plays. And, I'm not even going to fault him that much for the ineligible man downfield because that play took a while. And as a lineman, you're not looking behind you. You have that mental clock and then you go, right? But Leatherwood is just so bad. And, even a guy like Eric Flowers, moved to guard and he looks decent, but Leatherwood just looks so lost. And especially, picking up stunts, and especially as a run blocker, just did not look good at all, man.
Well, I do feel for him because he started the year at tackle and then they moved him at the guard mid-year.
Right away, yeah.
And I honestly think you almost want to keep, like, if I'm the Raiders, I almost want to go into next year at tackle. Like I think you can like turn him into a right tackle, let him doing that, and it helps this year to move him to guard over tackle. But I just felt like that was kind of rushed, but that's kind of why like no one wanted Alex Leatherwood in the first round pick because he wasn't going to come in right away and be that guy, especially for a team like the Raiders that's trying to, they make the playoffs and maybe trying to win a game or two. So, do you got anything else?
Here's a little prediction talk. Do you fire the GM? Do you fire Mayock for the Raiders? Because you look at the drafts and it's not that good. And is this the game that the Raiders interim head coach, did he earn the job for next year? Kind of coming out today, the team looked lackadaisical, didn't get the play calls in on time, a lot of penalties. Is this a game where Al Davis is looking at it and like, no, I don't want this going forward. We kind of got to start, not necessarily from scratch because you have a good team, but just get the head coach and the GM on the same cycle.
Al Davis in heaven probably would fire both.
Whoops.
Mark Davis is a little more even tempered. I don't know. I don't watch the Raiders enough to. I definitely want Mike Mayock fired if I'm a Raiders fan. The head coach, I don't watch the Raiders enough to say, but it's been a cool story. But at the end of the day, he is an interim head coach, and you probably want to get your guy. I don't know. But it's like I don't love Greg Olson as their offensive coordinator. I know he's done decent adjusting throughout the season, but there was just times where like today, where it's like, there's just like at key moments you had like really bad play calling.
Yeah.
All right, that's it, right?
That's it.
All right, like, subscribe. We'll have one out after the Bills after all the playoff games. We're going to try and get these done. So like, subscribe. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.